Welcome to the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed, aka the Savage Tech Man. We talk film, TV, and tech, all from a geek perspective. You can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and you can subscribe and follow on YouTube at Geek Homeworld. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Be a part of the Geek Homeworld.
Hello, everyone. We are alive. We survived the Hurricane Helene, and we are here. Greetings. I'm Ed, host of the Geek Homeworld podcast. Oh, Lord. I got to say this right because I got a special guest here tonight. I can't say it. Find it where you're supposed to go to your website.
You are. I was going to ask you, is it geekhomeworld.com?
No, sir, it's not.
All right.
But it's on the socials. Wherever you find your podcast, I know you're gritting your teeth. Yeah. But yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys later. All right.
I know he's out of here. We've got my co-host here, DigitalCaveamnn, DigitalCaveamnn presents. You can see there where he's at. Hello, Caveman, welcome. Greetings. And of course, Dave Jackson is here from the School of Podcasting at School of Podcasting.com.
Yeah.
That's how you're supposed to do it.
That's how you're supposed to do it. I'm just here. Let me explain why.
Yes, sir.
Back in the day, there was a website called mp3.com. Huge, huger than any other website ever. And there are musicians making a living on mp3.com. Mm-hmm. And people wouldn't give out their website. They just like, just go to mp3.com/Dave Jackson, right? Everybody, well, guess what? mp3.com got sued and sold and sued and sold, and it's gone. And so all these people had fans, and all they knew was go to mp3.com/Dave Jackson. And this is like 40 years ago, early days of the internet. Same thing with MySpace. If we go up to that, just myspace.com/Dave, and then it goes away. And everybody's like, well, where's Dave? I don't know. I just knew that. So if you have a website, which costs less than $20 a year, everybody knows, just go to geekhomeworld.com.
Because of you, sir, I've been not a lifelong, but the majority of this podcast, I've been a Libsyn.
There you go.
So I do have it at geekhomeworld.libsyn.com.
Okay.
But it doesn't have,
you don't own that, though. That's the problem.
I do not own it. I do not own the RSS feed, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Or do I?
Libsyn's not going out of business. So,
they're very reliable.
Yeah.
And Dave used to work for Libsyn.
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. It's the head of podcasting there. Great company. My background's in teaching. And as I kind of went up and up and up the ladder there, I was getting further and further away from actually helping people. And nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't my jam. And looking back, I should have gone to them and said, hey, I'm not super happy with what I'm doing. Is there something else I could do in this company? I've never quit a job before. So that would have been the proper etiquette.
Right.
And instead, I had somebody approach me at Podpage, and I said, what would that look like? And it was everything I love to do. And so instead I walked into Libsyn and said, hey, here's my 2 weeks. And they went, what? So
we can't end podcasting because you're leaving.
Yeah. So it was, I always tell people there's nothing wrong with Libsyn. It's, I just left because this is a little more fun and this wasn't. And so I'm having a blast now at Podpage.
I'll have to check out Podpage. I have not yet. I need you to,
when I turned in my 2 weeks at my last job, they were just like, see ya.
Well, that was the fun part is they didn't want me to leave. So there was a little bidding war there for a little bit. That was kind of fun.
That's awesome. That's always fun.
Yeah. So that was fun. So, but
that, I don't know why that
my last job was Walmart. So,
I kind of expected them to go, well, we wish you the best. And instead they're like, wait, hold on. Like,
don't leave.
No, it was during the period when they were transitioning from Sam Walton's company into what they are now. And
we both started before the dot.
What, 17 years ago? 17 years ago.
This is a math-free podcast. You know that, Caveman. You've just said the bad word, math.
I said numbers, but I didn't say math. But you keep talking math.
I'm getting that bat lip from behind you.
I'm getting my math tool out.
Yeah.
Don't you getting your abacus?
Yes. This is how I count.
Okay.
Nice.
We need Dave to do the shameless plug of where everybody can find him and all the wonderful things he's involved with, and all that stuff, or however he prefers to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, if you're starting a podcast, or if you already got one and you need it to grow, come visit me at schoolofpodcasting.com. And then if you stand next to me for 20 minutes, I will start another podcast. So I have a bunch. If you just go to powerofpodcasting.com, that's everything I do, my book, my podcast, everything's there at powerofpodcasting.com.
Excellent. And Dave's done several podcasts, like When He Breathes. Every time he takes a breath, it's a new podcast, and it's usually successful. And he's doing, I'm drawing a blank, with Daniel J. Lewis.
Oh, the future of podcasting.
Future of podcasting. And I'm a listener. I've been a lifelong listener. Let me just give the spiel that I usually give, which is the truth, and it's heartfelt. And I did it on the previous episode, my 10-year anniversary. Dave was supposed to be here, but he was rocking out with his band and and all that. So I want to hear about all that good stuff. But anyway, when I started podcasting in 2008, me and DigitalCaveamnn here, our podcast grew out of us just talking about movies and, and sci-fi and tech. And so I went to the internet, I said, "Dear Mr. Google," this is probably before Mr. Google. So I had to write the letter to the search engine to Ask Jeeves. And, and I was like, I need some free software because I don't have any money to put into this hobby, as it was. And I said, I need to find a way to record what I'm doing. And I looked up, I searched around until I found Audacity, and I said, Audacity, that sounds cool. Well, let me look up Audacity. And then the Audacity to podcast.com comes up with Daniel J. Lewis. So there was that. And then later on, years later, when I was we were trying to perfect how to do guests, right, Caveman? Because we were doing Skype and all that back in the day.
And myself and the other co-host, we had to record our own bits, and then we had to email them to him. And I had some slow ass DSL built out, and it would take all night. It was like back in 98 trying to download the Star Wars Episode 1 trailer. Exactly.
That took a whole day at dial-up. I would go to work, and I'd make sure the computer was on and make sure it was dialed in. But anyway, so
Ed, are we opening it up? Do I need to post a link?
Not just yet.
Estrella's here.
Estrella's here. Okay. Yeah. Just give us a moment, Estrella. Okay. We'll bring in a little bit. Okay, promise. Don't go nowhere. But anyway, so there came a point where I needed to know how to do a mix minus, and so then I was like, how do you do a mix minus? And Ray Ortega pops up.
Yeah.
And so that brought me there. And then Dave, what did I get from Dave? Probably everything else. And under the sun. And then these three guys kind of been my podcasting heroes. They've inspired me on times where I knew no one was listening, and the only person that cared about my podcast was myself. And it's kind of like when you're an artist, you're rarely famous in your own lifetime, and you're certainly not famous within your family. These days, I don't even think my family has time to listen, but that's fine, So they're usually the last to come around, But finding an audience was interesting, and we found our niche. And excuse me.
Well, we sort of found our niche.
We were doing good. We were at. Can you remember what it was called? The web service. It was free at the time.
You're talking about where we had the website?
No. Yeah.
That was
on
the
website.
Moonfruit.com.
Moonfruit.com.
I want to say it was.
Have you ever heard of that, Dave?
digitalmancave.moonfruit.com. It was something that I found out about from watching Attack of the Show on G4, and they had mentioned it. I went and looked, and
we were
it was
getting
pretty easy.
We were getting, I don't know if it was 1,000 downloads, like I don't know if it was not every episode necessarily, because and that episode, those podcasts is still out there on. It's not iTunes anymore because I barely go to Apple. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, what happened to Moonfruit? So it was free, and let me guess,
it went out of
business.
It was free. I don't know. I haven't even looked to see
so
what's
funny.
going on with it.
It went out of business.
I'll have to add that to the list of. I have a list of. Well, here, let me. I have this saved as a text expander. So if I just type in, I think it's free. Yep. Pod Show, Podango, Wild Voice, My Podcast, Audiometric, Opinion Podcasting, Zcat, Wooshka, Red Circle, Libsyn Studio, not Libsyn, but their free program. And the only one that has somewhat made it is Anchor. And they were this close to going out of business when Spotify bought them.
I liked Anchor before Spotify, I think, if I can remember correctly.
I have never liked it.
Well, I wasn't a fan of it, but it worked. It worked for a small period of time, like a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, as the technology advanced, and so from when Moonfruit went south, I was like, I think Mr. Google was a thing. So I'm like, dear Mr. Google, tick, 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 tick. I need a free or close to free because I listened to Dave, and getting stuff that was free, you get what you pay for,
Yep.
and it was very, I'm sure there were always, even with Moonfruit, I'm sure there were limits on how much we could upload per month, because those podcasts that we did, which was called the Digital Man Cave podcast. There's Moonfruit coming soon. Oh God, is it it's coming back?
Yeah, apparently, but it's
that means probably somebody just bought the
America's
domain.
top digital marketing agencies.
So it's something else. It's probably not even podcasting. They don't even know what that is.
Not.
Okay. So anyway, so we had from that point, let's see. I'm all doing this from a 54-year-old person's memory, so there's going to be gaps.
Yeah.
And half truths. But so then I saw, well, I think you were probably, I don't know what year this was. I can't remember, but I think you probably mentioned Libsyn, and I'm like, well, I trust Dave. So Dave knows what he's doing. And so I tried out Libsyn, and I think I've got like the $20 tier.
Yeah.
I've done several different podcasts through Libsyn, and some I've still that are no longer active or like in the $5 tier. And I still get hits on some of them, which is kind of cool. And I've always considered myself a podcaster first, and it was all about audio. And when this thing called YouTube was really taking off, I said, hey, Digital Caveman. I was like, we have this podcast for our love for Star Wars and sci-fi tech, which Digital Caveman, if you look at a whole upstairs of his house, is every Star Wars battle with all the different action figures, and you've got all the ships, and you've got all the books, and all the stuff, and we can just totally geek out. And so we needed somewhere to go, and I said, let's try this Libsyn thing. And I paid a little bit more to get the analytics. I started out slow, probably the $5 tier, and then I was like, "Ooh, I need a $20 tier." And I was single at the time, so it was okay, throw it on the card.
Yeah.
And so gladly, I got on Libsyn. It's been a love affair with Libsyn. To this day, I'm still using Libsyn, and I've not had issues with them. And all that, there could be some more things that make it a little bit more interactive on the site, and that may be in some of the higher paid plans. I don't know, but I was in a comfortable space there, in a comfortable level. And then I said to Caveman, I was like, there's this thing called YouTube, and we really need to get on YouTube. And this was probably at that point, I might have had cable internet, or the rumors of cable internet coming to my town. And we didn't really have the technology. I had all the analog equipment, all 400 cables plugged into everything, a mixer, a limiter, and all that stuff. And I said, and what did you say, Caveman, when I said we want to get on camera? Let's get on camera and let's start taking this podcast to a new level.
I said, no, nobody wants to look at this ugly face.
And I had to reluctantly concur that you were correct. But now looking back, I wish I could have pushed the issue a little farther.
Yes.
And look at you now. You've got a member on your site.
Yes, I have one member on my YouTube page,
which is a
thank
start.
you very much, MC DJ ACDC.
And you're on Instagram.
Really
you're on Instagram. You're on X. You're on Threads.
I have an account there. I don't.
Yep.
I don't really use it.
Yeah. There's social media. I remember when social media was the wild, wild west, and it was fun.
Oh man, when Twitter first opened up, God, we had a blast with that.
We had so much fun with it and interacting with people, and then it became polarized and a cesspool. And I don't know if it's on its way back. Yeah. And anyway, so I'm starting to like Threads because I actually picked up some subs. I think I might have picked up some subs today. Definitely some. And I've been reluctant to use Threads.
Anybody who is follows you on Instagram, it'll only do so many a day, but eventually everybody it automatically subs you to who you're sub to on Instagram and vice versa.
Well, what's interesting is that Threads, and I was reluctant, like I refused to get on the TikTok bandwagon. I said nobody wants to see if an old Gen X guy trying to dance on camera and hurt himself, even though that probably would be a funny reel. And but at heart, I'm an audio podcaster, right? And getting into this YouTube world, I was kind of slow to do that. And so I'm building that now. But recently, Threads seems to be getting more interaction than anything other than YouTube, of course, because I'm really pushing things on YouTube now, really kind of focusing there with the show here. But I've gotten several people that we've interacted with. We've got some people that you were helping me line up, the Caveman, that were going to be some fellow Star Trek guys that said, hey, anybody like Star Trek?
I hadn't heard back from that yet, but I need to send something else out to them. See if you and I need to get on the same page about what
we do
that needs to be, and then I'll get back in contact with them.
And we were still at that time when we were going to jump on the YouTube bandwagon. It was still a thing where I don't think either of us collectively had enough speed to do it justice. I don't think, by the time I got cable internet.
The quality of the videos back then too, wasn't great. And I think you were limited as to what you could upload,
Right. And
it's not like you could upload a 1080p video back in that day.
Yeah. And, what's interesting about it all is like technology, even in the last 5 years, and Dave can attest to this, technology is it's growing by leaps and bounds. And I'm trying not to get left behind. We used to joke, me and Caveman, say we were the kings of the digital revolution. That was just something we said.
That was a long time ago.
And we weren't kings of anything,
Well, it's tough. You got to keep up because if you just stay where you're at, you're going backwards. So I know I'm trying to learn more and more about ChatGPT and, that whole language models and all that stuff just to keep up with that. Still not 100% sold on it. I did an episode about it, and I don't mind it as a tool to shape the content that you created. But when you go, okay, ChatGPT, write me a script about so-and-so so I can read it into the screen. It's hard to be a thought leader when you're using ChatGPT's thoughts because, it has admitted that it only goes back to 2023. So like
really?
You're just
regurgitating.
And not just that, but they have the other thing that they don't even have to read it themselves. It'll read it for you, and you can give it whatever voice you want. And
so it's the good news is humans are going to stand out like a sore thumb, but I can smell AI. a mile away at this point. So, and my favorite is what I call, I don't know, Kyle and Cheryl, which is a Google Notebook, and you upload whatever you want, and it'll be like, hey, let's do a deep dive into, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, 100%, let's go. And now it sounds really good. And I'm using it because I've downloaded so many PDFs. I'll get on somebody's email list, and I'm like, oh, I want that lead magnet. And then you never look at it. And I was cleaning up some stuff. I'm like, well, before I throw this away, I'll just throw it into Google, let Kyle and Cheryl tell me all about it. And then I'll be like, and half the stuff's from, 4 years ago. So it's really old. But there are people that are going to now. In fact, I know Danny from Captivate kind of did it as a joke, but he's already taken that and turned it into a podcast. So now Kyle and Cheryl have their own show and, that whole 9 yards. But
well, what I really want to know is my wife's name is Cheryl. So if that's her second job, I've not seen any of that money.
Yeah.
So,
well, I cloned
me and her going to have to talk.
Yeah. I kind of broke the rules on 11 Labs, which is this one of those tools where you basically, you can send it. Well, I found an old cassette tape of my grandpa reading the Christmas story, and I cleaned it up and was like, wow, this sounds really good. I was surprised how much I could clean it up. And so I threw it into 11 Labs, and I texted my brother, and I'm like, hey, what do you want grandpa to say to you? And he's like, what voodoo are you playing with now? And I cloned grandpa. And he's like, whatever. And so I typed in, my brother's name is Doug. I'm like, hey, Doug, love what you're doing with your girls. So proud of you. Keep up the good work. Love, Popo.
Aww.
And I sent it to him, and he's like, I am crying like a baby. And I was like, because it sounds like him. It's not 100% like all AI stuff. But I was like, that was kind of weird. So
that is like, that's very existential. It's like, where we're going is exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Well, have you heard about the safe word discussion?
No, I haven't.
Okay. If you have children, you should have a safe word, because especially us content creators, as most kids are now, right? They could go to their YouTube channel, clone their voice, throw it into 11 Labs, and then say, they hold up the phone, Dad, I need $10,000 or they're going to kill me. Dad, you need to give them the money. I just give them the money. They want it in iTunes gift cards. I need $10,000 worth of iTunes. Well, at that point, it's a scam. But you could say, okay, what's the safe word, sweetie? And when she says apple pie, and you go in your head, you're like, no, it's, whatever, something else. Then it's a clone. And I was like, yeah, come on. And they're like, no, you should have a safe word with your family. And I was
definitely should.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, I like to pretend it's, I mean, I'm not young, but I'm not old, but I'm kind of like, really? I'm like, no, there are people that'll do that. So
yeah, whoever it is that warns you about scams and phone scams and different things like that, whatever entity that is. I saw a report somewhere where people were doing that, like when the AI calls your house and and if you say yes, then that's all they need, and they clone that, and then they've opened a card in your name, or is this your address? And they find your address, and they do whatever they do. And they
I always love when they ask me questions, and it's an AI, like you're like hello, and they're like hi there, and you're like hi, and then you figure out that it's an AI, but they'll ask you questions. So I always love when it's like, tell me what is such and such, and it'll be like, I'll just say out ridiculous words and cuss and swear at them.
Rumpelstiltskin or something.
That's right. Clown penis. Yes, whatever.
What is your name? I stepped on a Lego, you bastard!
Yeah, exactly.
But yes. The thing that gets me is
on a Lego with bare feet. You know.
Right. Well, so you guys normally talk movies here?
Film, TV, and tech. Yes, sir.
All right. So do you guys actually go to the movies, or is this stuff on streaming?
No. I live in the theater if you let me.
Well, here's my question.
I'm the opposite.
See, I've gone to 2 movies for the first time in probably a year, and there's nobody there. I saw Joker last night.
I'm sorry.
So bad.
Everybody's hating that. I want to see that.
Well, here's the thing. if you watch the previews, right? There's that big blast. He's in the courtroom and he's being Joker and
Spoiler alert.
and you're like, wow, there's got to be mayhem because I just saw where they blew up the courtroom. No, and nobody told me it was a musical. And
Oh my gosh.
there's this much story. There's literally the first 30 minutes of the movie. You watch Joker walk down a hallway with a cop, and then he turns and then he walks down that hallway, and then he turns and goes down like literally 30, and then he'll sing a song because half the movie is out of his wacky head. So he'll be like, smile when the world is smiling, whatever he's doing. And I'm like, what the heck? And then when he gets done walking down the hallways, they take him outside, and now you get to watch him go in a cop car down the street to go to the court. It's literally like the first half hour is just him walking and singing. And I was like, and so that's where for me, I'm like, make sure your trailer matches the movie. Cause that was not what I expected. I was like,
or our example, me and Caveman and I, we're big I'm a massive Terminator fan.
Yeah.
You can give me Terminator in a pile of poop, and I'm still gonna like something about that pile of poop in Terminator.
Right. So we're definitely in the minority.
We're in the minority, and one of our films that we do like in there is Terminator Genesis. We like the idea of it because it was kind of a soft reboot of the franchise, but they gave away the fact that John Connor merged with the AI in the trailer, so they took the surprise. The
big reveal of the movie.
The big reveal,
it's in the trailer.
So what's the point of going? Yeah,
exactly.
I hate that when all the good parts, the movie's supposed to, or the trailer's supposed to make you want to go.
And please don't say on this stream, Dave, I don't mean to interrupt you, but please don't tell me about that last scene that everybody really hates, the end credit scene or whatever it is at the end of the film. I don't want to know what it is yet because I may go see it, and
I won't.
But
no, I won't. I went because I'm a huge Lady Gaga fan. Like, I loved her in A Star Is Born. I remember when she was the woman in the meat dress, and I totally wrote her off. But when I heard her on Howard Stern and stuff, I was like, oh wow, this chick can actually sing. And so I was kind of there for her, and to her credit, she did a good job of singing as her character, who wasn't a very good singer, like kind of a weak, kind of whispery voice. I'm like, that's not Gaga. And occasionally like Gaga would just slip out, but I was kind of like, wow. And it was weird. It's the first movie I think probably ever that like halfway through I was like, I might leave because like this is not what I wanted or expected. And it was every 10 minutes they'd be like, oh, we're gonna go to another weird scene in his head where now they're on a talk show dancing and singing. And I was like, isn't he gonna kill somebody soon? Like, shouldn't he? Like, what's
damn it, kill somebody, please.
Please kill me so I don't have to finish watching this movie.
Well,
but when you go to the theater, is there anybody there?
No, sir. There isn't.
It's because I talked to the guy at the
Wolverine,
theater.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah. Because I talked to him and I said, like, I said, I'm here early. I go to the 6 o'clock show and I go, but when I come out, I'm expecting the lobby to be full. It's a Friday night. So 8 o'clock Friday movie should have people lined up to go. And he's like, no, he goes, I forget the name of the stupid, starts with an R. Whatever the movie theater is company. Regal. He goes, Regal has 349. I think he said 349 movie theaters, and they were like 340th on the list. And he goes, we'd be out of business except they own the building. And he goes, so they don't have to pay rent. And he's like, last week they had some other movie, and he goes, we had 55 people. It was unheard of. And I was like,
the thing is, people, the pandemic, and we've talked about this on the Geek Homeworld podcast. The pandemic changed everything, and just like the Joker says, you've changed everything. And there's a retraining now of people to go back to the theaters, but this generation that's coming up, they'll only come out for Barbenheimer or some kind of gimmick like that. They'll come out for Deadpool and Wolverine. And you know what it comes down to? And if anybody listens to this, they've heard me drone on about, it's all about the story. Your effects are great. I love your effects, blah, blah, blah. But if your story sucks, if Luke Skywalker's drinking blue milk and he said the Jedi are gone, then I'm gone too. It's
funny you say that because the two movies I've seen were the new Beetlejuice movie and the new Joker film. And neither of them, I came out of there going, oh man, you've got to go see this. Like Beetlejuice wasn't bad, but what was interesting is the first Beetlejuice, their special effects won like an Oscar. Like it was really kind of cutting edge for their.
Right.
Well, those special effects are now not new. So you're relying on the story, and it was kind of like, wow, there's about 5 people in this movie that could have been cut out that really didn't add anything to it. So what's missing is really good movies. That when I watch, I mean, that's the movie thing. We're going to spend a bunch of money making the movie, and then a bunch of money promoting it. You go see the movie and tell your friends, oh, you need to see this, and I haven't done that yet. So,
and the thing that I can say about Beetlejuice that I think applies to Joker. I'm calling it Joker 2 because I'm not going to French or do math on this podcast, and fully I do, I guess. But is that oh gosh, there goes my brain. Squirrel.
Beetlejuice and Joker.
Thank you. Yeah, is that Michael Keaton had no problems with his performance.
Right.
Lady Gaga, the film should have really been a Lady Gaga show, and it would have been probably much better. Right. But with the material that she's given and the material that Joaquin Phoenix is given, he doesn't half-ass anything. And and so I feel like they're doing their best, but the story just sucks. And the thing is, Joker 2, from what I've heard and not seen it yet, that it doesn't do anything to push the story along. In fact, it takes Joker from where he was at the end of the original Joker film. And in Joker 2, it kind of puts him back in it to square one, to start over again and go through all that again. And you can't catch lightning in a bottle. It doesn't happen. It's extremely rare. And it's just, I don't know what they were thinking. Todd Phillips, I mean, that's a film that should have been a standalone film. And the first film spoke to people that, being disconnected from society, being left behind by society, right. Depression, it would maybe speak to what some people call incels, people like that, feel cut off from the rest of the world, whether it's by their own doing or just society kind of leaves them behind. And we saw in Joker brilliantly how the system failed Arthur Fleck continuously. Yeah. And there's nothing in that. You basically got a trial. And whatever comes. And I mean, I love the first film. I've only watched it a couple times, and I'm in no way comparing these two films when I say what I'm about to say is that they're the same or they mean anything on the same level. But to me, in my mind, it's a similar experience. The Passion of the Christ, I can only watch a couple times. And Joker, the original Joker, was the same way. I can only watch it a couple times. As brilliant as both films are in their own right, there's just something about the level of brutality. Yeah. And then just how haunting, and this is a credit to Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, but the first Joker was just so brilliantly acted. It was so well written. The story was so great. It's like Michael Jackson doing Thriller and then coming out with a polka album next. Right. It doesn't do anything for you, and it's just useless.
Well, so the other thing is because both he and Gaga, like, they committed 100% to the role.
Yes.
It just, all icing and no cake. You know what I mean? It was like, but there's a scene again where they're walking him down and he's shirtless. And this is where I'm like, dude, I get that you like committed to the role. He looks like you could break him like a twig. Right. He dropped so much weight to play this part. And I was like, isn't there like, I mean, I get it. I appreciate the dedication, but I was like, dude, that's crazy. Like, I would love to know how much weight he lost. Cause he said it was harder this time. And I'm like, yeah, you're older. Everything's harder when you're older. Man.
And
not everything. Yeah. What I hear.
Early projections of the box office, like the first movie they spent, I think it cost like 40 something million budget. And it ended up making $1 billion, which nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
And then Joker 2 has a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
And it's possibly going to only open with about 50 million at best. So it's probably not going to make up what it's lost, and deservedly so. But I knew going in, I knew months ago, a lot of months ago, that it was going to be a musical. I'm like, what? Is this a joke? I thought it was an April Fool's joke. It was a long time ago when they were talking about the production of it. And then I'm like, okay, I try not to make up my mind. I'm going to go in with an open mind. I'm going to watch it. And I was prepared to go watch it, but we had a hurricane this weekend. So that kind of threw everything off.
Tends to spoiler plans.
Yeah. Mother Nature's not.
And that bitch ran off of my mailbox.
Yeah, I was going to send you some for your birthday.
You think I can report that to the federal government and they'll go after her?
You have to write them a letter. But I was going to send Caveman something for his birthday. He's like, this would be a good birthday present. I literally, once I got the internet, I was like, okay, what's your address again? So I send it. And he goes, I don't have a mailbox. I was like, well, damn.
Problem solved today. I have a mailbox now.
Okay.
And it's like properly installed. It's not like a cardboard box with duct tape on it or anything like that.
It would have went viral if I came down there with my chainsaw that I don't have. I came there and cut some of those pine trees from your house. And we'll talk about death and destruction later, but back to Joker, which is death and destruction.
Yeah.
Why Todd Phillips? I know that check, those zeros kept getting larger. And that's when he said, okay, we'll make a sequel. But he's already come out and said he's not doing a third one. He's done. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. You're going to be done regardless.
Yeah, well, if the studio doesn't fire you, the fans.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that. I haven't even seen the first one. I just it doesn't.
You have to see.
It doesn't appeal to me. I have no desire to see it. As much as I love.
It doesn't have
Batman and Joker and all.
Well, don't worry, you're not going to see Batman. You already know.
It doesn't appeal to me. So it's not, that movie's not for me. It's not.
It's still.
But going back to what y'all were talking about, he was so skinny and stuff. That brought back to mind the what was it? The Crow City of Angels with Iggy Pop, and I was like, God dang, dude, put a shirt on or eat a sandwich or something, because Jesus.
I don't know. Iggy Pop
looked like a skeleton.
He's just rock and roll like that. He's rock and roll like Dave Jackson. Dave probably does that when he's playing.
No, I do not take off my shirt. Nobody.
The girls do that, right? All the women do that.
No. I had one woman once that just said, I'd like to take you home. And I was like, I'm kind of married. That's a problem. So, but
you should have said, well, do you have a 401k and do you like to pay my bills?
Yes, exactly.
You want to be my sugar mama?
Send the money to Cavemann's mailbox coming soon.
Yeah.
No, installed. It's ready.
Installed. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But yeah, it's the trend since the pandemic. Well, the film industry ended for me. It ended during the pandemic from actually working in the film industry. I had to transition out. And it's this generation, they're not going to be fooled. And plus everything's super hyper expensive now, even air is expensive, I guess. And at this point, so people are only going to go out for things that they know they want to see. And it's a shame because I've seen there's one film I saw recently. Me and my wife went to see at Regal, which I think a tree went through the roof of one of the theaters there. Yeah. So hopefully it's back up.
It probably went through the roof of your IMAX.
It probably it's an inferior IMAX to the one they have in Pooler, which is outside of Savannah, which is one of the largest. Oh my God, it's fantastic. I saw Blade Runner 2049 in that, and oh my gosh, that was
you remember when we went to see Into Darkness?
Star Trek Into Darkness.
Into Darkness. It looked fabulous. Story, not the greatest.
Well, the thing I thought was funny is I felt bad for the movies, and I was like, you know what, I like movies. And so the guy's like, well, he goes, how often do you go to the movies? I said, I like literally these are the first two in about a year and a half. And he's like, oh, you should sign up for our unlimited plan. He's like, it's $20 a month. So I did. Well, here's the funny thing. I went to sign up on their website, type in all, they want a ton of information. and I hit order, and it said, "Sorry, we can't take orders right now. Try back in a little bit." And I was like,
God.
this is probably one of the reasons why you're having a hard time making money. So finally, I thought about it. I'm like, I bet they want me to do this on the app. So I downloaded the app, put it back in, and it worked fine. But then it was funny because I was like, okay, you can watch as many movies as you want. And my closest theater, I think, has 5 screens. And I've already seen Joker and the other movies, and I've already seen Beetlejuice. And I was like, well, there isn't really anything else I want.
There's a movie, and talking about some films that have gone under the radar. There's a one with she's Aubrey Plaza, I think is her name, actress, and she's in it with her. She's an older version of and her younger self. It's called My Old Ass. And it's a very charming film. It's about kind of like if you could go back in time and something weird happens. She takes a hit of drugs and ends up talking with her past self and trying to warn her. It's just it's a good film. There's films like that. The one about the penguin that came to the guy's house, it was based on a true story. It felt like an old Disney film before the dark times, before Kathleen Kennedy and Disney, when Disney was a thing. And but there's a lot of films like that go under the radar. And I've got the Regal Pass thing. It would have been AMC, but in my town here in Augusta, we do not have. All we have is a Regal, and it could use some help. It could use. Well, not just help like employees, but it could use a redo and everything else. But I could live. Caveman knows I could live in the theater, and that's where I'm probably the most happiest. Well,
that was the other thing I thought was weird. Is I was like, well, why do I like going to the movies? And this is one of the things that's missing. Then is I loved it, especially if you saw a comedy, and everybody laughed at the same time. And everybody cried at the same time, and that group dynamic. And I was literally, when I was sitting there in Joker, the other 2 or 3 people that were I was so tempted to just turn around and go, "Are you guys thinking this movie sucks as bad as I do?" Because I wouldn't have been. I'm only interrupting 2 other people, and it was so I missed that kind of group dynamic. And when I saw Beetlejuice, there was 1 other person in the theater, and I was like, "This is so weird."
When I saw Beetlejuice, I came out there thinking, and I'm not a great big. I'm a Michael Keaton fan. He's the best Batman.
Yeah.
And I thought his performance was great with the material that he had, but it felt very spotty. The whole film felt like just kind of taped together. But then this young guy, I guess they were Gen Z or Alpha. They're younger than me, so I don't know what generation is what. And they come out, and the girl comes out of the restroom, and they walk right in front of me, and I'm waiting on my wife who's in the restroom, and she says to her boyfriend, she goes, "I have to see that again. That was such a great movie." And I'm like, okay, I must be the old man in the room here, because I was like, okay, but in a moment I was like, I am, and then I said to myself, I was like, well, I'm happy that somebody likes this film, that she gets it, that if that was who they were trying to reach, they reached her, and she's going to tell all her friends how great this film was. And you have to look for the gems, because Hollywood they've lost the ability to go after something new and creative and original. Right. They've lost originality, and they just want to go where they can make the most money. And I know that from being in the film industry, it's, just because they film a lot of films in your city, and they come in there and get the state tax credit and the tax credit for the county and all that, they'll set up shop there. But 90% of your invoices will be out of LA. It's like, you're not, it's helping your community, but is it really though? And the industry is not it's dying, but it's not, I don't think it's going to die. Just like somehow I hold out a belief that the MCU is coming back, to Kevin Feige. He cleaned house, and he's bringing things back, and things are going to get better. I'm an optimist. But to answer your question, Dave, about what happened to all the comedies, Iron Man killed the comedies, because everything became MCU, and it became superheroes, and I loved it. Don't think I didn't go to several viewings, sometimes per day, of Avengers and all these films, and loved them. But maybe The Hangover, that might have been the only thing that I can remember, but it's few and far between. And I kind of hope that we're getting back, since Hollywood has cut budgets. They've all the people in the industry struck several months ago, which is at the worst time, but I'm happy for them that they got what they needed.
Yeah.
But what they've done, I don't want to say they've helped kill the industry, because the greed of the studios is, well, we'll send more stuff overseas and we'll cut the output in half. And that's exactly what the film companies have done, all the studios. And the same thing, I think about the dock worker strike that they put off, they did for 3 days and then put off till January 15th. It's kind of similar. And I'm not against the workers getting their fair share as they should, but I know that there's greed on the other side. And in the case of like the dock workers thing, automation and AI to kind of bring this together in a way is going to replace a lot of people's jobs, that you can do longer and faster. And Caveman knows, because I have an HR background and he has a background of dealing with safety and stuff like that. You always go where you can save the most money. You do more with less. And it's a good business model, but it's not a good people model. And, show business is not people business, it's show business. And, I don't know. I don't know where we go. We have to find a way to bridge what AI can do for us and integrate it into our lives, that it doesn't replace us.
You need to read that comment.
Profit Director says, I've been here for about 10 minutes and Ed has talked for 9 minutes and 52 seconds. Why even have a guest, bro?
It's too funny.
Profit, I love you. You are my hero. And you're right.
Well, I'm going to touch on something there that Ed was talking about, with the comedies. He said Iron Man killed it, but it wasn't. It's not just that. It's the, I'm worried I'm going to offend somebody if I make this certain product, and PG-13 and R-rated comedies are part of that, and they just don't make them anymore because they're afraid, oh my, people are going to find it offensive. Well, that's comedy. If you're not offended at least a little bit by some comedy, then it's not comedy. It's somebody is going to be offended somewhere by.
I love people like Dave Chappelle, that I think always speaks a lot of truth to that. The fact that, you can't, so many comedians are scared to make jokes because we have to be in our camps and we can't reach across the aisle and be friends anymore. And I refuse to live in a world like that. I won't allow it. I just simply won't allow it in my new empire. But
well, between him and I love Ricky Gervais. He's like,
oh gosh,
somebody will come up to me and go, well, that's offensive. And he's like, no, that offended you. He goes, it's not offensive and you're offended, but so what? And it's like, that's the way we just, I keep telling people that we need, I was talking in the podcasting space. I go, can't people just say the following opinions are not necessarily those of the sponsors? And they're like, they said, well, that might work in court, but it won't work in the court of public opinion. And I go, then we just need to push back when they go, well, he said booger, like we need to cancel. Like, we just need to go, no, just easy, just go away. Like, so
I'm going to say this out loud. My good friend, Daniel J. Lewis, I like to think so. He is a Christian man and a Christian podcaster. And I know he's taken some heat, and, we're not going to go into all that because I don't know all the facts.
Right.
But I respect him for standing behind his beliefs.
Yeah.
But, it's in, if a place, oh gosh, I'm not going to go down this rant that I was going to go down. But if you call yourself inclusive, to me, inclusive means everybody gets a seat at the table.
Yep.
It doesn't mean at the expense of some type of person or some person. And I like the saying that if there's not enough seats at my table, then my table's not big enough. And I think we need to get back to that. Here's a good movie that I saw, and I'm on the left side of the fence a little bit, but I'm also on the right a little bit. I'm in the middle somewhere. I saw Reagan. I thought it was a good film. It felt like a lower budget film, but one of the great things that I liked is that there's a saying in there. Reagan meets Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House at the time. And he said, Reagan said, I'm told I need to be on my P's and Q's with you. And he goes, well, we do run a tight ship around here. And Reagan says, until 6 p.m. And Tip O'Neill says, what? He said, at 6 p.m., we clock out and we go have a beer. And I'm like, yes, that's it right there. That's where we need to return to. And I'm Clinton, and I forgot who his Speaker of the House was.
Newt Gingrich.
Yeah. They could go and get a beer afterwards after, going at each other. And I like that. I miss that. That's what our country needs. We don't need to just come together when there's a national tragedy or cities are wiped off the map. It's, that shows the best of who we are. But I think we're like that. We're more alike than we're different. And what if you can't afford a bigger table, Profit Director says, then you get a bunch of smaller tables and you line them up until you got enough. And don't ask me about the seats. You just sit on the ground and be happy.
You get some duct tape and some sticks and some cardboard.
You could do a man with duct tape can do anything.
That's it. Well, well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes,
unfortunately, I got to run. I got laundry that I got to do, and I got a whole bunch of things going on. But I saw you guys are going to be on tonight, so thanks for hanging out. And
thank you so much.
Continue on, sir.
Thanks for dropping in.
Right. And y'all check out Dave. He's on Saturdays at what time?
Feel free anytime you run across it and you want to jump in. Hey,
Saturdays I'm at 10:30 in the morning, which is on Eastern time. If you got podcast questions, askthepodcastcoach.com/live is where you can get free podcast consulting.
And that's your best seller in the background there. Profit from podcasting.
That's it. Profit from your podcast. And then that's the Hall of Fame thingy right here.
Forgot to mention that.
So that's always fun. But
also, I've had 2 Hall of Fame podcasters on here.
There you go.
And all right, Dave, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for jumping on here. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
And take care.
Well, have a good night.
Thanks for listening to another exciting episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast with your host, Ed, aka the Savage Tech Man. Remember to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for being a part of the Geek Homeworld.